Welcome to the Business Spotlight. My name is Everardo Resendiz. I am a certified and executive business and executive coach with Action Coach in Northwest Louisiana. People around me, around here, know me as Coach Ever, and I'm very excited to be here today with Stewart Hamel with Skyrunner as my guest. Today we're going to be talking about the business, the journey to getting the business to go, and challenges, best practices, and share a peek under the hood to see how things actually really work in the business world. If this is your first time in the channel, please be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop conversations just like this one. And so, Stuart, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, will you share with us a little overview of your background and tell us a little bit about the business?
Yeah, my background, I started selling companies in my 20s. I used to work for the former president of Caesar's Palace. We did small M&A transactions. I got recruited in my mid-20s to start a tech company called Reach Local, which was super fun. We grew up from 5 people in Shreveport, Louisiana to 3,000 employees. And we did our S1 in 2009, took it public in 2010. It was my first IPO. Grew up from zero to $450 million in revenue. And then I started what would be like a small private equity, like family office after that. Got into natural gas. Skyrunner was an accident. It was not supposed to be a business. So I just started buying income producing properties. Skyrunner was sort of a pet project I did with my kids and family, and then it became a solution to the government defense world.
Very good. And so set the stage for the viewers and the listeners. What does the current ownership structure look like? Are you the sole founder, owner? Do you have investors in this business?
Yeah, we did. The last company we started, we used traditional financing. We did VC money, institutional money. With this, I used my own money early on, and then we did some small investments. We have 10 partners, well, 11 now. So it's about 11, one strategic partner, and the rest are pretty passive investors.
So, what is the role that you currently have in this business?
Well, technically, I'm CEO, but full time, I'm the test pilot. I do sales, I do marketing, I do HR, I do government relations. So, I think the CEO has the hat he gets to. You don't work less hours, that's for sure. I probably do 70-hour weeks, sometimes longer.
Wow.
But
And so, how much of that time that you're putting in, this 70 hours a week, you're occupying in the let's say the test pilot, the hats within the business, the work that needs to be done in the business,
right.
and how much of it is occupied on the other part, the strategy, growth planning, all these other things that will take more of a structure.
I think early on it was a lot of I had my thumb on the pulse of kind of every element of it. And now we've liberated, I give a lot of autonomy to the team. So our sales team is pretty vast. We have 2 retired 3 stars. We have a retired 2 star, 2 brigadiers, a lot of colonels. And then we have a production side. So we have inventory, supply chain, assembly. So assembly is going to be the growth area now. So what would take 2 people with 1 bay, we have 9 bays here. 2 people can assemble 2 to 3 aircraft a month. So we do about 18 and 27 a month here.
Oh, wow. And so you're working with a lot of chiefs and a lot of generals, lots of very strong personalities.
They're very good at reducing the sales cycle. Um, what I learned about government defense, coming from the corporate America side, is Adam Smith's invisible hand that, whoever makes the best product at the cheapest cost doesn't always win. So I'm used to that on the commercial side. It's a very relationship driven process on the defense side. And I completely understand it because it's relationship based, it's trust based. It's not meant to discourage innovation. I think there's just a comfort of coming from the military, of doing business, and maybe it's just it's a social, maybe it's a norm that we all feel comfortable doing business with people that are familiar to us, right?
That's right. That's right. Wow. And so you talk about these product that you're producing, um, and it sounds like it's very related to defense work. Is it that you only sell to government agencies?
Yeah, so we're dual use. We started off with the civilian, and that was my interest. What I'd learned about as a pilot, scuba diver, skydiver, I love adventure. The powered parachute was a new aircraft to me. I'd never heard of that before, but it had the best safety record in aviation because you're flying your plane B, right? And it was one of the few aircraft you don't need the engine. It wasn't a safety component of flight. So I'm like, if I'm going to put my kids in it, which was initially, the goal with the ranch and taking them on adventures around the ranch in Colorado, it made sense if I'm putting my kids in it, right? Um, it we took it down to Fort Lauderdale to the boat show because people like their toys. Like a small boat in the Fort Lauderdale boat show is like 10 million, a big one's a
Right.
billion. So we thought it'd be fun just to like, how would people respond? Because aviation was not it was not an industry I really wanted to get into. The first thing you think about is capital intensive, right? Highly regulated, like out, right?
Mhm.
So some people thought, they said, look, man, I really think people will buy this thing. And I said, I don't know, it's pretty eccentric. I mean, this was not supposed to be, like a toy or fun. And I think it'd be a headache to do. Light sport was a new classification. So didn't have a lot of regulation. You could only have two people. You had a pilot, you could take a passenger. And we took it down there just to see how would the market react to it? And we lost our voice in 3 days. Like we just had crowds and people really were digging this thing. It was simple. It was sexy. And it was we had no FAA approvals yet. So CNN money shows up and I'm like timeout. Like this, I don't want to do like this is getting the cart before the horse. And we did this little interview and it was their second most viral video on CNN money. So Dev Grew, SEAL Team 6, Dev Grew, Damnick saw it. They reached out and I thought it was a joke when I first got the phone call. I thought it was a friend playing a trick on me that they wanted to use this for different mission sets that solve problems. So they came down to Shreveport, came down 3 times. I went up to Virginia Beach 3 times. Then CAG got involved, which was formerly Delta. And everybody had these great feedback loops. And I'm like, man, like who wouldn't want that? Because every time they said something, it reduced the chances of something like it being immobilized. I'm like, well, yeah. So the whole design philosophy was rooted in here's everything that's going to go wrong in the battle space. So we had a chance to kind of reverse engineer, have redundancy, sometimes triple redundancy. So we designed it from the ground up for, look, it's the most alpha thing you could do. Who doesn't want it rugged? And if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for everybody else. And so that was kind of how it was born.
Wow, that's amazing. And so, do you have a lot of competition in that marketplace?
Ooh, I won't be naive saying there's no competition because anybody can be your competition. Um, we had some big public companies try to buy us in 2018. 2017, we got FAA certification. So everything leading up to that was just kind of like we weren't real. Until you have the stamp approval by the FAA, it's a good idea theory. So, and what was interesting about the FAA, I was nervous, really nervous about going through this process. But what was cool about the FAA is they're very pro-business and they're kind of like your high school coach preparing you for battle. Like they're going to make you do your sprints. So you're going to probably throw up. We had guys throwing up outside when they came to town to like inspect us and do the audit, but they were really there to help us be surprisingly like just beef us up, like prepared for battle. And it was a really neat relationship early on with the FAA. I remember asking one of the FAA guys, I said, what's something in an audit that no one would think to do? Like, what's something that would be badass? No one would think. He said, look, download the manual. Here's everything they're going to audit. Put it in Excel spreadsheet and put like next to each question, everything they're going to audit, put the book and the page number. And we did it. And they went through 3 times what they generally would in 4 days. But it covered our butt too, because they got to look and challenge more things. And
Right.
I think we only had 7 there were some, they wanted to see some things beefed up, but some 7 things that were challenged to say, hey, look, fix this, and then we'll give you your certification. And I remember asking him, so what's the average? Like, what's the average, like, correction? He said 40 to 50, which was cool. So having gone through 3 times the audit and only having 7, it was it was a neat early start with the FA and us.
Oh, it's amazing. And it probably were very good things that you needed to cover,
Oh, absolutely. It
and
just made a better
correct.
product.
It's amazing. And so who's your customer these days?
So the customer, so on this, we'll take the civilian side first. Um, so on the civilian side, you're looking at 100% male and alpha male, ultra high net worth. Um, they 100% of them own land, and over 100 acres on average, some thousands. 100% own a truck and a trailer. We've had people come in from New York that male ultra net worth landowner, but they didn't have a truck. They have a Ferrari and a Porsche, but it's like, well, how am I going to pull? Now you got to go buy a truck and a trailer to go with your Skyrunner. 80% were pilots, was interesting, and 80% were gun owners, which might be a variable. Just it might be
It
it
goes
might
with
not.
the alpha male persona.
Yeah, it was a very hell of a male. And then the government defense, it was everybody from Air Force, Army, State Department, and then the foreign military. So our foreign partner nations, that's when we started getting the larger fleet orders. Yeah. And
Wow.
then hopefully this year or next year, we'll have commercial looks like that's going to open up for light sport, which we're going to have an economic engine, so now we can sell economic engines, fly for hire, which you can't do, has not been done for light sport. You can do it in general aviation.
Right.
So this will open up all kind of stuff from, pipeline inspection survey, aerial photography. Yeah. So people, tourism. So yeah, you could buy it and turn and make money off of it. So that'd be pretty cool.
That is amazing. And so what is one thing that you wish people knew about these product, this business of yours?
It's probably more about the who we are. So Skyrunner is a very patriotic company. American flags everywhere. You got, it's just it's the guys village, right? It's like former military vets. It's I would say that it's the patriotism and the whole idea of bringing our soldiers home, bringing the royalty of our country home, doing things that no one else in the world can do. And that's the cool thing. Is Skyrunner is it's a it's such a one-off. It doesn't compete with a helicopter. We can't do what a helicopter can do, but
Right.
they can do what we can do. It's the only aircraft you can really hide in the battle space. You can hide it in a U-Haul. You can hide it in a garage. Um, it's very low maintenance. You get 200 miles in the air, 400 on the ground. Um, yeah, it's probably the coolest toy I mean, look,
It
I'm
is the
biased.
whole package, and I've
Yeah,
seen
well,
it,
I
and I
mean,
think it's
it's the
amazing.
most fun tour. I remember taking my son, he was 9 for the first time up, and I was worried at 1,000 feet, how is he going to feel? Is he going to freak out? And I remember, I remember looking at the video. I mean, he had the hugest smile on his face. And the best way I can describe what it's like being in it is like your childhood dream of flight. It's the closest thing because you're only taking off at 40 miles an hour. So it's not
Right.
a very intimidating speed. And then when your wheels are up, it's just smooth. And, it's probably similar. It's an analogy. You remember like learning to ride your bike for the first time?
Yes, of
Like
course.
that independence, like that liberty. Um, and then you get your driver's license. And you're like, oh my God. I remember thinking I could go down, I'm in Shreveport, I could drive down to New Orleans. If I wanted to, I could go do that. And Skyrunner is probably the last, or maybe just becoming a pilot. You see a river in front of you, you see a cliff, you see a range, you like nothing gets in your way. To be able to put your like, you know, your son or daughter in the back, or your wife or your girlfriend, and just go wherever you want to go. It is probably it's one of the coolest, freedoms I've had as an adult.
That's amazing. Okay, well, that leads me to the marketing, right? So you have this very specific type of customer. Um, how do you get to them? How do you make it available
Ooh,
to them? I haven't seen it
that's
in the rubber report, for example.
yep. Yep. So So we reverse engineering that, we had 4,000 leads come in the first 5 years. So we were looking, what do they have in common? And of the 4,000 leads, what we found was, like I'd mentioned, they're all male. We've had some females come close, but they didn't. They're all ultra net worth. They all are landowners. And landowners, if you had a ranch, you probably got a truck, right? And so we have lost sales because people didn't have a truck. So that was the 100% barrier. And then if they were a pilot, it was already a lower friction into, because there's an assumption it's going to take a year to become a pilot. It only takes 2-3 weeks in Skyrunner. So light sport takes less time, 12 hours versus, 56, 58. I had to go through becoming a single engine fixed wing pilot. So there's some education there, but if we do a demo, if we take 2 units, we do a demo. For every 2 demos that a person meets that profile, we'll sell 1.
So a good
But we're
50%
going to buy
conversion rate.
1. Yeah. So it's 50-50. So we got it down to a real science until someone flew into a building in Dubai, one of our resellers, and it was, oh my goodness. And it went viral. And it was just, it was one of those things I thought was going to sink the company. So I pulled back on that and focused on the defense, but we still sell, like we do stuff for, we partner up with cool people like Craig Salman Sawyer for child rescue, vets for child rescue. That's some of the nonprofit stuff we like to do. And then the government work. So the government's great because it's attritable. Here's a low cost aviation asset that can move a lot of payload. It can move boots on the ground, and you don't care if it comes back almost. I mean, it's just one of those, a Black Hawk that could cost you $35 million. We're $380,000. So we do sell to rich people, but it's not the core. I think we're going to sell a lot more when commercial opens up, but government defense will be our number one, is by far the number one customer.
Very good. Wow, that's excellent. And so we spent some time, talking a little bit about, the business and the clarity that you have around it. I'd love to take a step back and dive into the journey a little bit more because it did start like a hobby. It was
Yeah,
something that wasn't meant to be a business, right?
right.
And so, when did that shift happens for you? Like you decide, yeah, this ain't a hobby anymore. You go to
Yeah,
these to show your product, and something's like, oh, there's a business here.
right. Ooh, when did that happen? I think after a certain amount of money was invested, I think it was like, okay, this is no joke. Like that, the FAA was a big hurdle. So there was a lot of like objectives we had to hit. And then could we sell it? Like, okay, getting FAA certification is one thing, but can you actually sell it? And then we started selling it. And then it was, well, can we really get a government contract? And if you get a government contract, like, you spend 3 years and you sell 2, right? And you're like, okay, that's not real scalable. And then you get some cool guy tech. So you get these big contracting companies want to put their tech on your platform because we're just a platform. I mean, it's agnostic. You put a lot of cool stuff on it. But then no one really takes you seriously until you get a foreign military sale, which is really challenging.
Hmm.
And that's when it comes to the team. So I don't know if you can see all those like bullets up there but that's probably like 18. That's everyone we've had to let go. And so the people we've had that have stuck are just, they're the people you can go to battle with. And it makes business so much fun that you depend on each other. It's a cohesive team. No one's stealing, no one's, it's
Right.
just a work environment. I think that the hard thing about business is learning when to cull and to cull quickly. So learning to hire for attitude and then train for skill was a
Right.
lot simpler. That was probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned.
Oh, you did cover a lot of these things already. So let me then go to biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Was it the FAA or was it the breaking through the military sales? Or was
Biggest
it something
challenge.
else? Capital access, I
Temperament.
mean,
I think what you'll find when you have a successful business, you'll have strategic differences. So sorting out that because people want to go in different directions and effective communication. It was when we would get government, so we would start working on a government project, a requirement, and then a retired colonel would come in and get government money and try to duplicate what you have. That was, yeah, that stings. So when you see people that are willing to take government money and then they have a conflict of interest and they try to replicate something,
Right.
and then how do you handle it? Do you go IG? Do you go investigative, general? That gets complicated and sloppy too, because then you're hard to deal with. So learning how to work out complicated situations like that when you have an IP, threat, and it's funded by government money from another side. Not saying their intent was, wrong. It was a bad situation. I think that having people come and work inside your company that really work for other companies, another tricky thing for a startup.
Wow.
So yeah, I think, and then not getting lost in the paranoia of it all, but looking at these things as a validating. I mean, I saw it, and I think a lot of us saw it as it's wow, someone's really willing to do that. Like how crazy, but it's validating that we're onto something, right? And I think
That's
just
right.
keeping that mindset where it doesn't poison you. That was probably the toughest thing.
So staying positive in the face of something really, really awful happening.
Less negative thoughts, is probably uh yeah, being too optimistic is a trap too. So
That is true. That is true. Well, let me then take it to the next 3 to 5 years. Where's this going? What do you see happening?
the trend line is going to be AI and unmanned, no doubt. So we have an OTA, we have a DoD contract to make Skyrunner unmanned, both in the air and on the ground. AI is a level, so it's layering on both secure communications, secure links. It's coordinating a lot of different like EOIR, which is electro-optic infrared cameras on the called a gimbal. You'll see that thing on the nose cone of these helicopters, laser
Right.
designators, different systems components for electronic warfare or jamming or spoofing, but layered on where you become a node, a communication node that operates almost like a synapse with everything else around you. So Skyrunner becoming unmanned and AI is going to be the trend, which is going to be heavier on the government side than anything else. A lot of civilians don't need unmanned Skyrunners with all the cool guy tech on it, right? But it's one of these things that what I'm most proud of is saving lives, is how it's going to be used for combat search and rescue and medevac. That's where we really shine too.
That's amazing. Well, good for you. And so let me ask you, you did mention about your team and how since you have these challenges moving forward, right, where you want to develop, um, how do you bring the people that you want to bring? You did mention you wanted to do it based on attitude rather than skill.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And then your good people, you want referrals coming from them for applicants. So I think that's shaved a lot off. The rest is just kind of it's team formation. It's I think listening to the world, giving it what it wanted. We listened to the U.S. DoD. We gave them exactly what they wanted. Um, and then the rest, it's taking care of your customers, taking care of your team. I mean, the grass is always greener where you water it. You take care of your team, they'll take care of you, and then it just becomes a
Oh,
tribe.
that's very good. I had not heard that before.
Yeah,
It's excellent. You always hear the grass is greener on the other side, but you're
yeah,
right. It is greener where you water it.
absolutely.
Okay, so what about the recruitment of people and bringing the new talent that you need because this will require you acquiring people that have a different skill set.
Yeah, the nice thing is the skill sets we're going to be hiring for now are not going to be too complicated. It's because it's fine assembly. So that's how we reduce the capital intensity of this is going fine assembly. We have 60 suppliers. We have 373 parts that make up the aircraft. We have secondary, tertiary suppliers like redundancy in the supply chain. So in COVID, unfortunately, some of the suppliers went out of business. It didn't slow us down because we had the level of redundancy. That was reading a Harvard Business Review and being scared out of my mind, like what would happen if you're too dependent on a manufacturer in Japan after that tsunami.
Right.
So I think there's like some panic areas that you compensate to make sure that doesn't happen. Um, yeah, so I think, two people putting them in a bay, we're probably gonna have to shift going from making these in bays to more of a assembly line.
Production line, yes.
um, a month for us. So
Hold on a second,
scaling up the supply,
Stuart. I think I lost you there for a minute.
oh, okay.
So So you were saying two people running a bay,
Yeah.
moving to an assembly line, right?
Yeah. Shifting to a assembly line after we get to, for 18 bays, we're probably going to shift to an assembly line. Um, and then working with your supply chain to make sure that they can keep up. You don't throw it at them all at once. I mean, that's to be able to make 30 a month. I mean, that's, now we're looking at, the demand signals being thousands of these a year. And whoo, like we'll take it one step at a time. But quality assurance, making sure they're leaving with high quality assurance, that's gonna be really important that we don't just get sloppy in the numbers game.
Excellent. Well, we certainly have covered a lot of ground today. And for those people who are watching, I highly encourage you to save these and come back up and watch a few times. There's a lot of good nuggets here to remind yourself that there's things happening out there in the world, right? So as we begin to wrap up, Stuart, a few rapid fire questions. Okay, first thing in your head. Okay, as we go through these,
Get it.
um, what is the key to success for you?
Uh, Strong mindset. I think I think life and business is largely a mind game. Having a routine, a ritual every day. My ritual, the hardest thing I do every day as soon as I wake up is an ice bath. I have 300 ice baths logged. I'm 8 minutes shy of 28 hours in 38-degree water. So the first thing I do when I wake up, I get a water, I go out, get an ice bath, 5 minutes, over 5 minutes. And that is, I think that discomfort, putting yourself in discomfort, um, is the first thing you need to do every day. Being willing to do that is a good start.
Love it. What is your one piece of advice for other business owners?
Keep your powder dry, live beneath your means, always have cash, be prepared for anything. Have a good mentor. That's something I failed to do early, that I need to find another mentor, is having a good mentor.
Very good. What is one book that you're reading right now or have read that you will recommend people?
Ooh, my favorite's Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I have it right here. I'm always reading. So I think the focusing on virtue, character. I think the strong mental attitude, courage, just learning to operate in uncertain areas and having the right temperament where you're not so much in the future just being anxious and you're not depressed about something that's happened in the past, but being in the present.
Having that resilience of mind.
Yeah, 100%.
That's amazing. Very good. So, if you had only one area, you could choose only one area to improve, like tomorrow, what would it be?
One area to improve, I would say, hmm, for me personally,
Yeah, or for your business. I mean,
for the business, I would say what the business needs is scale and production. So, getting out, I think the only way over is through. So, um, hitting the things that you don't want to do, I'm bad about that. I put it off, is do them early. Do them before noon. I'm going to start doing that as of tomorrow. I'm not letting it go past noon. So the only way over is through and do the hard stuff quick.
very good, very good. So before we get into the final question of the day, how can other people learn about your business and how can they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, so we've got about 800,000 followers on social media, Facebook, Fly Skyrunner on Facebook, Instagram's Fly Skyrunner. Our website is Fly Skyrunner, FLYSKYRUNNER.com. Yeah, we don't get a lot of sales from those avenues, but we put out a lot of cool content.
Hey, if anything, at least getting that more people to look at it, it builds clout, right?
Sure.
And I mean, I tell people all the time, you're never gonna get what you don't see,
Right.
you can't make tangible, right?
Sure.
So it may become one of those things that I want to have in my future.
Oh, that's cool.
Right.
An aspirational brand. I never thought about that. That's cool. I like that.
And so, last question of the day: what's most inspiring for you today?
Um, what's inspiring is to see people inside my company, outside my company, do the right thing in uncertain times.
Love it. Love it. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all these with us. Thank you to you, the audience, for watching these and sharing it. You never know who can you help, who can you inspire by letting them get a glimpse of these. So make it a great day. Until next time.
Thanks for having me.